So now using this this legacy sort of alternate method, it's still very relevant. Since I have no internet, I can't load native mods, so for now I'll just show how you use it with the mod manager. So I'm going to show you how to make a mod that allows you to control your time dilation using a mod menu, like a widget, and then that'll be like the basic stuff is just using a slider, and then an advanced version of the same mod as well, with using input actions and allowing the user to edit their keybinds to increase or decrease the time dilation by however much they want, without having to open the menu. So first off, I'm just going to use this mod 070 here because it's already there. And so first we've got to create a widget for our mod. So we can get rid of this for now as well. So we don't need that. Let's create a widget. I'm actually going to first create a folder. This is going to be called time control. Oh yeah, that's right. There we go. And then we're gonna just create a new folder called widget. Actually, yeah, okay, sure. And then here, we're gonna go use interface widget blueprint. I'm just gonna call this time control UI. Now this basically is a big canvas, so this is set to the native resolution. However, the problem is with this is that everything would have to be scaled down, because if you saw earlier, when you load into the mod menu doesn't take up the whole screen, it takes up a small amount of the screen. So really here, this would be too big. But what we can do, if I close that, and then I just delete that, right, I have a file called BPMM GUI, and it's basically sort of a like a template size canvas that's good to use. So you can download this off. I'll put a link in the description for it. So if I go into this mod BPs, time control widgets. Actually, I'll just put it in mod BPs because then I can use it later. So it's in mod BPs. I do this, right click it, and hit duplicate, and now I'll make my mod called time control UI, and then inside, and then just move it into time control, and then into widgets. Right. So now I have this, and you can see it's got a sample text, and it's smaller. So this will be a 1-to-1 scale with the in-game menu. So first what we want to do is create a slider to basically change how, allow the user to input what their time dilation is. So first let's just rename, click on this sample text. We're going to say change time multiplier, and we're going to delete this. Now photo boxes are really nice for kind of aligning, padding and everything your input control, so they're not on top of each other and they're not that difficult to manage. If you really want like nice looking UI stuff, I would use the DRG lib UI elements. So you don't have to use the entirety. You don't have to use native spawning or anything. You can just copy out the UI elements part of it if you want, and just put it into your project. It's not bound to the native spawning system or anything. So it's a nice thing to have. So I go, if I just do slider. Here we go, common slider, and I just put that under here. So now we have a slider first important thing is to rename this slider to something sensible. Let us call the slider something like time slider. And we're also going to make another, inside this same vertical box, we're going to make another text there. And this is going to be called slider value, like that. So what this will do is it will show whatever the value of this is. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go padding, and I'm just going to pad like 20 unit, no, probably 10 units to the top, and 10 units to the bottom, just so there's a bit more space for the slider. Now what we want to do is we're going to, where is it? Slider bar brightness style, bar thickness, here we go. That's the wrong one. Yeah, there's always a lot of fiddling around. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember. There's a lot of fiddling to do. So we're gonna set default value first to 1, and currently it's gone to the end because, you know, it's set between 0 and 1. So I've tested this. 8 is generally about like the highest you want your time dilation to go. 8 times faster in the game, because anything like even by then you're lagging so hard because you're trying your computer's trying to run the game at 8 times the speed. That's how it's meant to be run. So it's not, you know, it's not ideal to go any higher. And then 0 is a complete stop, so everything is frozen. All you can do is look around. Then let's make this look a tiny bit lighter. So we'll just change the handle color to like an orangey color. You can use an exact color. Again, I would use DRGlib's UI thing because this looks terrible, to be honest. But you know, it does the job. So the reason we named these two and not that is because these two are going to be used in our blueprint. So these are going to be objects. You can see time slider actually here is bold and the others aren't. The reason this is bold is because this is variable box is checked, and we make sure this is checked. And this one also needs to be checked because we're also going to access this as a variable in our blueprint. So if we now compile, make sure it's always, yep, good. Actually, I'm going to set this just to 1 as our default value because the default value of the slider is 1, so that makes sense. Compile. Now we go into graph view. Now there's a few things here. You don't need any of it, just get rid of it all. So now you'll be wondering, so how do we get the value of the slider? Well, widget objects have different events depending on what they do. So you can hook something up from that event, so it does something every time it's run. So if you click time slider on the left pane, and we just kind of move this out here, we can see on value changed is something nice. So if we do on value changed, when the slider is moved, when a user moves the slider, this will get called. Every single time it gets moved, this will get called. And outputs value as a float. So how do we bring this value into our mod blueprint? Well, what you can do is create a new event. So we go to event dispatchers, and let's call it something like, we'll just call it set slider val. And then if we click on this, it says please compile the blueprint to get default value. Do that. So now we need to select we need to add an input as a float. So this will be called new time value, for example, and this will be a float. So this basically takes in a float called new time value, and that's all fine. Right, and then the default value doesn't matter as well. so if we drag off this and we type cool, cool set slider value is the event we just made, and then we just drag that in there, and so the value when the slider is changed gets set into this event dispatcher. Alternately, what you can do is drag this out and click call, and it will call this just from that. So there's a few different ways you can do that. So now we're done here, so make sure we compile. Compiling is very important. If you go into this, and basically we need to actually create this widget. So currently this is just standalone. We need to actually create this. So how we create this is we go create widget. I like my blueprints all nice and tidy. Now we need to select the class as time control UI. See, it should be in here. And so that creates the widget, but it still doesn't display it or anything. So now what we need to do is make a reference variable. So this will be used for allowing us to actually get values, like setting the text box values, all that stuff, if they're selected as its variable. But we'll see this in a minute. So let's just call this time UI ref, and the variable type has to be your type time control UI. So you see this object type time control UI object reference. So we've got that now. If you go return value, and we just do set time UI ref. Sorry, wrong thing. What we do is we drag out here and go set. There we go. And then we just return it to there. Now, this mod base uses something called the mod UI, and you'll see if you're doing native blueprint as well, then mod UI will be set in the interface settings. So you create your variable here, and you'd plug it into the UI ref. But here, because we don't use that interface, we use mod base v2. What we do is you go to this. We drag out of this blue node, sorry. We go set mod UI there, and there we go. So this is basically setting this widget will be our UI for this mod. Now, one thing to note is that with Blueprint Mod Manager, with this, it's sort of meant to be very basic, like a mod loader, very basic and very simple. So you can only set one UI for your mod. So this usually won't be a problem. You can add all tabs and everything to this. But an upside for DRG lib over Blueprint Mod Manager is that there's like setting config, so you can have multiple UIs, multiple widgets for each mod. So there'll be like drop downs in the sidebar and everything. But we won't go over that in this tutorial. You can mess with all that later, and Sam has great tutorials on all of that stuff. So now that we've actually got the widget in the blueprint, we can actually go about calling the time control event. So first, make sure you drag off this blue value because it's content sensitive. So it's sensitive of this object. So now we type bind event to set slider val, and you see it here. And now we've got a bind. It looks like that one over there. And this will also automatically be dragged in. Let's just bring it over here. If you double click this, you can actually make a node which goes like that. And you see here this actually isn't aligned, and it's really annoying. It's still not aligned. So if you hold Control and click on this one and press Q, it aligns it to this one. But every time you move it, it gets done. So now if I drag this execution node, because it's got one, it has to be executed some way. So that's basically got this event now, and we need to create an actual event, and we need to actually create an event off this. So let's add custom event, and we'll just call this time control event. Very nice. Right, so you see here, this is our new time value float. And this is passed through from the slider. So what we can do is we can do set time dilation, set a global time dilation, and bring it in there, and boom, there we go. So this should work very basically. This will be the skeleton of the mod. So let's just test it first by packaging it. So delete this, select that. This is obviously going to get more complicated. We've got the text box. You're probably wondering how you set the value of that from the value of the slider, how you save values, all of that stuff. So we'll get to that in a minute, but let's just test this to make sure it's working. Right. So do tutorial, Windows new editor, FSD, content. Get rid of these things, we don't need them. We can get rid of that if we want, and all of this stuff is in here. So we copy content, we go to DRG packer, input, get rid of that old one, put that in, and then run pack. You can write a script, like a batch script or something, to automate this this process, and then you shove it into here, replace the old one, and then load up the game. Right, so theoretically we should see our mod.
Here we go
also set
again.
the defaults earlier as well. So time dilation is already 3, and the mod is not showing up on the thing. And yeah, this is done like this. So there's something going wrong. Let's try and do this live. So I've got event on start. That's probably the issue, because I've not done this. Let's try binding event, bind event on initialize, add custom event on initialize event. Right, let's try that instead. Time control UI set. I missed about that, but it doesn't really matter. Time control, yeah. I mean, all of this stuff wasn't even showing up, so it had to be somewhere. Oh, I know why. It's because this is in the wrong place. So if I go component browser 1, like that, there we go. I know what it's because this can only be in modbps. You can't put this in a folder, so you have to move this here. And then what I'll do is I'll actually move time control UI to time control, and we can delete widgets. Yeah. So I forgot that this actually has to be inside the modbps folder. That's where the Blueprint Mod Manager is looking for it. So that should be our issue. Let's just check that nothing is angry at us. We have to compile, make sure we do that. Now, it's always good in a tutorial to show mistakes rather than just edit them out, because then we get to diagnose them live, because you might also have this problem. If I just redid this entire section, someone else might have the same problem, might put it in a different file, and then they wouldn't know why, and they'd have to ask for help. It's always good to sort of include this sort of stuff into the tutorial, if you don't mind, that is. But then again, you have no choice. Right, very nice. And go into this. Video tutorial, Windows 9 FSD content. I really need to automate this stuff. It doesn't really matter about all that stuff. And now, DRG packer input, delete this. Pack. New P pack. And then replace there and load the game up.
Good morning, cruel world.
Right. So yes, now time dilation is back to 1. Oh, it feels so slow. Now, if you go to 3 times speed and we do this, you can see this is on 8 times speed now. Yeah. And now if I go to like super slow-mo, you know, super. And I'll go super fast, I'm speeding all over the place. Yeah. Right, so that's the very, very, very basic functionality of this mod done. And you can see how this changes, and it's all very nice. You can change the keys and N and all that. But you can see, firstly, this value here isn't changing. Secondly, if I if I close this tab and then open it again, it gets set to here, even though time dilation is still like somewhere over here. So we want to do that as well. So let's work on that. So first, let's get the slider value text box. So this slider value text box, to output whatever is on this. Also, I'm going to change it because I hate this. This color is horrible. It's atrocious. How to orange? There we go. That's better. Still atrocious though. Yeah. So let's just delete that. So firstly, we get this by dragging out and getting get and clicking get. Alternately, what you can do is hold Control and drag that out, and it's a get. If you hold Alt and drag that out, it's a set. So your getters and setters are important to know. Now, if we drag out of this and we do get slider val, this is our text box. So we're getting the basically the object reference of that. And now what we can do is set text, but not set tooltip text, set text. So set text. And then what we can do this. Actually, let's bring that set time dilation back and do this here. So now we could just manipulate a thing, but that's stupid, obviously, because if it changes, what do we do? So what you can do is drag this in here. So we want to take this float and make it string. And what you can do is do convert to float, or you can just drag it in and it makes one automatically, and there you go. It has this. So now every time you change the slider value, the text box under it will show its value. So now I'm going to fix the bug where if the UI is opened, it needs to set this from 1 and that from 1 to change it to whatever the current value is, really. So that would be ideal. Now, if you're natively spawning your blueprint and interfacing it with the mod manager, this bug won't happen. It shouldn't do, at least. So it will get saved and everything. But because I'm using the alternate method, which I much prefer, we can bind event to on UI opened. You can drag out from this, and let's add custom event. Go on UI opened event. Just put it onto there like that. Nice. So now, actually, let's make this easier to read. Just hit F2 and do set slider event, something like this. So now we know that when it's opened, it's setting the slider value and all that stuff. Now the problem is, is how do we get this value from down here up to there? Well, what we can do is set a variable inside the blueprint. So let's call it time dilation. And of course, we don't want it to be this, we want it to be a float. Now, in here, if I just move this across and turn off all of that, and then I hold Alt and drag that in, it can set this. So if I set this to this, this output node actually gets this set, gets this variable after it's been set, so you don't need a separate get node. And then we drag that in down there. This basically allows us to access this value anywhere in the blueprint. So when the UI is opened, we want to get the value of this variable and set the value of the slider. So first let's get it by dragging out, holding Control. And also what we need to do is hold Control, get this, get the value of this. We also need to get time slider, and then the set value is the node you need for that. And then we just drag this in here, we drag that in there, and we're not quite done yet because we don't want to just set the value of the slider when it's opened. We also want to set the value of slider. I'm going to get slider val. So we can just drag it from there as well. We don't have to make another one if we don't want to. And then set text. There. Now, ideally, we can just use this one again. It's nicer. Let's just align this with that. There we go. And now, this mod should pretty much work at this point. So now let's package it up.
That damn galactic isle, it's killing my head.
So if I now go into this, see, okay, it's set to 0. So that's already our first bug. It's now set to 0 when we come in, so I know how to fix it already. If we do this, obviously now setting it 0, you can't do anything, but when we loaded in it was set to 0. So that's that, and see this value is changing, it's very lovely. Now if we close the UI and open it, it's now back, it's now saving where it was, which is very nice. But yeah, we found this bug here that I forgot about, so this is why we test it a lot. So if I exit, and the exact reason why that is, you might be able to guess it, it's because the default value of time dilation is 0. Let's set it to 1, which is our default value. Because when we first open the mod here, it's getting from 0, which hasn't been set from any of this stuff. So that's why that is. We don't need to test again, you just know that's going to work. So, let's now output to your HUD, to your screen, what the value of the time slider is. Because, you know, I don't want to open the menu every time, I want to see what my time dilation is. So, let's go into here and make a new widget. This time don't duplicate it from BPMM GUI because this is going to be HUD, so we need the full canvas size. And we'll just call this time control HUD. Open it up, and then simply we want to drag in text, make it a little bit bigger. Where is size? Font, here we go. Size, make it a little bit bigger. And now, let's just say time dilation. So this is just a label, and then if we put in another one, what size was this? Let's make this a bit smaller. Let's make 50. Right. Now let's make this 50 as well. Doesn't really matter if this is over this, but generally make sure it's pretty much aligned. And now we call this 1. So this will be the actual value. So this is just a label. You can put this in the same one and then append the text, whatever, but it's extra work, and we don't like extra work here. So just call time val, and make sure that this set is variable, otherwise you won't be able to access it. So now, if we go into here, what we want to do is add this to viewport. So now we need to create the actual HUD widget. So create widget, and then call it time control HUD, and we want to make a variable called time HUD ref, and we want to this needs to be time HUD oh, that's why, try and control HUD, there we go. There we go. And now let us drag off this and do set time HUD. Let's just drag that in there, it's easier. And instead of making this a mod UI, because this is the mod UI, we just add to viewport. So this just adds this HUD to the viewport, which is basically, the HUD. At the end of this, we want to get this, and then we want to get, what do we call it again? I forgot. Time val, get time val. Set text, nice and easy. And then we just basically inherit it from this. So if I just drag that down, drag this across, and it's clipping. Oh no, I hate that. Let's do this. There we go, and it's nice and tidy. And there we go. That should be everything working fine. So let's just package it. Probably did something wrong, but that is just the nature of modding. Nothing ever works first time.
Must remember to get my gear upgraded.
Ah yes, okay. So you see the time dilation text is there. It's currently overlaying where the Blueprint Mod Manager is. That's something you have to think about in your HUD widget. So we could just select those two and then move them up or down. So the Blueprint Mod Manager would be about there. So we could move it about here. We don't want to use this corner, that corner, that corner, that corner, because they're all being overtaken by something. But it's fine now that the thing on the side is gone. So now, if I change this value, I wasn't changing it. Okay, there is a bug. Very nice. Yes, that's odd. Right. There is a bug. Very nice. Let's try and work out why that is. So. Because I forgot to add this to the execution node. Right, so what we can do is we could just move this all across and then add that there. There we go, and now that'll work. And also I moved this down a bit so it doesn't overlap. You probably worked that out. When I was doing it, you're probably like, what? You forgot the execution node. And whilst that's packing, what I'll do is show you a little tip. If you just move this stuff over here, and then we can press C, we comment, and we'll just begin play. We'll call this mod setup, and you can change your comment color if you want, so it's all easier to read. We'll call this one make sure UI values are set on open. And then this one can be called set time dilation. And you can move an entire thing like that. You can overlay multiple comments over each other and all that stuff. And undo, Control Z to undo, of course. So now that's packaged, right, you can see time dilation's in a normal place now. And now it's working. So we see the value there is set. So very nice. Now we can see exactly what our time dilation is. You can make this smaller, I made it quite big, just so you can make sure you watching can see it. But generally, that's that. So that's the basic functionality of this mod finished. So now what I'm going to do is show you how to convert your mod using the older alternate blueprint mod manager method to native spawn. And this is quite easy. So first let's make a new folder called time control, and this will be our mod will be called. And then we create a blueprint from actor and call this init space rig. And then we give it an interface. I manage mod. There we go. Now so this is what we have. So basically we need to take all of these bits and put them into there. But if you notice in get config, there's a mod UI setting here rather than setting the variable here. So first let's copy everything in, like this stuff here first. Just get rid of those two, you don't need them. And then we make the variables, we can get rid of that. So we need to make variable time UI ref. So time UI ref of type time control UI. What you can do is, I mean, you'd have, that's fine. You'd have your, actually, yeah, you know what we'll do? Go into here, we'll go into there, we'll take those, we'll copy them, go to time control, and make a new folder called UI, called widgets. And we'll do that, and then, yeah, that seems fair. But this is not going to compile because, oh no, there's already one called that. So let's just rename them to native. Right, there we go. Now this needs to be of type native control UI. And UE has crashed. Right, I am back, and UE is back finally. So let's put that in there. Change this to native UI. Return. Need to make this a native that. Right, and then set that. And then do this. Make that a native HUD. And then make a time control HUD. I don't know why I named it that, but whatever. Native time control HUD. Set. And then add to viewport. There we go. Right, and now we go back to this, and we basically go, right, we copy all of this stuff. We make sure we take this one, and yes, it's because it's looking for a different thing. So bind event on set slider val. Add custom event called on slider changed or something. We need to make a variable called timer dilation, and that is of type float. Just to make this nicer. And then we also need to go get that. Slide over. Get slide over. And I think that's it. So the reason that we don't need an on UI opened here, actually you'll see if I try to drag off and I go bind event on UI, yeah, there's no UI opened. And that's because the mod manager now actually just hides the menu when you close it, and all of its child menus and widgets and all that stuff. Instead of actually like removing it and creating a new one. So that means that all the values will just be saved, as in they will never change. They'll never get reset because a new widget is not created. So that's another good thing about native spawning. You don't need to worry about any of this stuff. So yeah, that's a nice thing. Now, if I set my config, so first I need to set this as my mod UI, and then I want mod name to be time control, author to be me, and my version to be 1.0. Sure. We're setting the mod, so I believe this is everything finished. We could do comments on all that, but I'll leave you to do that stuff. Yep, I think that's fine. So I'm going to pack now, And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to pack yet. I'm going to show you something really nice. So if you go to package settings and click this little drop down arrow, show advanced, and scroll to here, directories to never cook. Click the add element and then this, and now I can choose folders I don't want to cook. For example, I don't want to cook test. I don't want to cook speedster, which is a example mod. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it here. What I could do also is go into mod BPs. I could go new folder. I could go finished mods, and then move that there. So now, obviously I have to move this back to mod BPs if I want it. So now what I can do is go to package project, package settings, scroll down to the thing, and select mod BPs, finished mods. So now all the mods in here won't get packaged. So if I go to here, and then I pack,
Today will be my lucky day.
and there we go. We have time control, dilation, it's all there. If we close and open the menu, the slider is in the same place. And this value isn't changing either, which is very nice. So now we're ready to finally move on to the advanced functionalities, and this will be again in the native blueprint spawning part, because the alternate loading method is nice in some ways, but it's kind of stuck in the old times. If you want within that some small edge case of mods where init cave loads too late. Now I'm going to show you more advanced functionalities of this no dummy blueprint method. So first thing you may notice when you're testing the mod from the basic functionality is if you go into the actual mission, the mod won't be loaded, and that's because we only have an init space rig and not an init cave. So you might be wondering, how do we actually how do we do both without just copying and pasting everything in here into init cave? Well, what we do is you first have to make your blueprint actor of init cave. We're going to rename this to mod, and then we're going to make another new one called init space rig. So now our main mod is here, so everything's in here, and we'd have to remake everything. And now we've got these guys. Now, what are these? Well, basically, we have begin play, and how do we get access to all of this stuff? Well, there's a great thing called spawn actor from class, and what we do is select mod. This has to be set to always spawn, ignore collisions, and spawn transfer has to be set because it has to take in something. And then in class settings, class defaults, we net load on client and can be damaged off. That's important. So now we do the exact same thing in init cave. So we go into init cave, event graph, delete those guys, and boom. We have exactly the same stuff, and it works exactly the same way. So now this mod will be loaded in both the space rig and the cave. So now we're actually going to go on to the actual like new stuff. So first, the thing with this mod is that you go into the widgets. You can only set the slider from the menu, which I don't want to do. I want to be able to just press a button and it will go up by 1 or something. Like the time dilation will go up by 1, or I want to press another button and it will go down by 1, without having to touch the menu. So if I'm in a game and I want to speed everything up, but if I open the menu, then my controls are locked to the menu. I can't move around. But if I just can quickly press a button, it's fine. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make some new action mappings. So we can close these guys. And first, what we're gonna do is we're going to make a new vertical box. So I'm actually just gonna duplicate that, and then change this to increment time dilation, binding, and then I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm just going to rename this to decrement. And of course this looks terrible, and you should try to make it look a bit nicer if you can. There is of course again DRG lib UI stuff, but now what we're going to do is we're going to do something called an input key selector. Now what this does is allows the oh hang on, I forgot about something. Is right, give me a second. Okay, what I'll do is I'll do that. There we go, and then I'll do another one there. Let's just go with that. So they can basically click on either of these and they can edit their key. So this one we're going to call, is this under that? I'm confused. Oh, this isn't under that, that's why. There we go. So we're going to call this IKS increment. I'm going to call this IKS decrement. Whoopsie. Right. Now we're going to give these a couple of default keys. So where is default key? Oh yeah, this is right. No key specified text. And I'm just going to do numpad plus for that, and this I'm going to do numpad minus. So these will be my two default keys, and they are bold, so they are variables. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click this, and we're going to do on is key selected, that's right, and then decrement on is key selected. And then we have to get this input chord. But first, let's create a couple of event dispatchers. So one we're going to call IKS decrement changed. Increment changed. That's decrement. That's increment. So, and then what we're going to do, we're going to create a variable inside them called new key, and then its type will be just key, and the same with this guy. So new key, that is not how you spell new. and key. Right. Now, you can't just drag that in, because it says only exacting matching structures are considered compatible. So what we have to do is we break input chord into key, and then we put that in there. So break, and then we just do this. Yeah, alright. And it doesn't like it for some reason. Okay, that's weird. I don't know what happened there. That was strange. But there we go. We're okay now. So now we actually need to do the really hard part, which is creating the input action mapping in the mod. So if we go back to the mod, what we want to do is when begin play is called, we want to do something called enable input. So let's first create a sequence node. So just do then this, so it'll do all of this stuff first, and then it'll do this. Enable input. What we need to do is actually create a function. This is a good time to show you functions. So we're going to create a new function, and it's going to be called getPlayer. And what we're going to do is first get numplayers. Number of players. Oh yeah, that's right. We need to get game mode first, and then get numplayers. There we go. Yes, this is going to happen a lot. And then we want a for loop with break. So now we want to loop through all the players. So also because we want to start index 0, we want to take away 1. That doesn't work as you think it does. We want to integer minus integer. There we go. Right, that's right. That's why I'm doing it wrong. I was confused for a minute. I want for loop with break. There we go. I don't want a for each loop. That's not right. So since get number of players, if it's 4, obviously we want this to be an array form. So it starts from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3 is 4 players. So to take away from 1 there. Otherwise, this will throw, oh, it's out of bounds. So now, inside loop body, we get player controller from player index, and then we get is local player controller, is local controller, sorry. And then if it is branch, if it is a local controller, then we return true. We return get local player controller. So here, this has to be, so output controller, and it has to be a player controller. So this will be our output here. So this is how we get player now. So if I go into here and I just call get player, this is my function get player. I just do that. And actually, there's something I forgot to say. So there's something called pure function. So this function here isn't pure. So that means, so basically the difference between a pure function and impure, I guess, is a pure function doesn't have, so this is a pure function because it doesn't have execution nodes. An impure function does. So I want to make this pure because I don't want this to have execution node. So now if I get player, there we go, it doesn't have execution node, I can just do that. There we go. Now I've enabled my input with controller as player controller, and we need to now create a function called create input mapping. I'll just call it input action mapping. Now the thing is that here we're assuming we've already made our input actions, but what we've actually got to do is create these within UE, so that when the game is packaged and running, it basically loads these into the game. So how do we do that? Well, what we do is we go project settings, there's edit I believe, project settings, there we go, and then I'll just type bindings. And we have action mappings. So it explains here what they are. So now we click this and we call it something like increase time control. And we don't set the key to anything. Create another one called decrease time control. So inside the game's it's called input.ini, input.ini. It's all of the key bindings in the game, and these will get stored in that. So this is very important, we need this. So we set, the reason we're setting these because we will set them later, like these defaults. So back to creating the input action mapping. Now what we need to do is create two inputs. This function will be fairly complicated, so you need to follow along carefully. Now we have action name, and this will be of a name, and default chord, and this will be of input chord, and that's all good. So I have two inputs in this function. Now what we need to do in this function is get your project input settings, and then from that get the action mapping by name, which will be in this case action name. So to do this we call a node get input settings, and then from that return value another node of the same name. I don't know why. So if I go get input settings, and then for some reason you have to do it again because UE funny moments, and then we get action mapping by name like this, and then we pass in that. So these are all pure functions, there's no execution node required here. So now we need to check that the out mappings have anything inside them. So this, so basically we're just doing a sanity check to make sure we haven't skipped making the input mappings inside the project settings or anything, the game doesn't crash. So we just check the length, and the length is not equals to 0, and then we just do a quick branch. There we go. Perfect. And now we need to drag off the return value from this one, this return value, and type add action mapping. And we'll just bring this down here. So we need this for this key mapping, but obviously this input call is not the right thing. So what we need to do is, yeah, the target will be this input setting here, and if this is false, then we add this. But what we need to do, how to get this into key mapping, is we have to break the input chord. You see all these different things? It gets a bit confusing now. We go action name and we go make input action key mapping. Do this. Now there's things clipping into this. I hate that. So I'm just gonna move everything over. There we go. Now I'm going to do this key to that, and then connect all these together. It's like doing electrical in Among Us. So now we finally have key, so we can plug that into there. So you're probably wondering, well, why can't we just take in key and put this in here? Well, the problem is that some action mappings may use multiple keys for their key bindings. So you need to take the chord and then break it into its member fields, and then take those and build up the new action mapping using your action name. Now we need to connect the node. We need to connect the output of this make node to this, so we've done that. What we have to do is take the output of this again and create a save key mappings. And then we just connect this to that, and this just finishes this off by this takes the the added stuff and actually saves it to the config file input.ini, which is in the game. So that is this function finished. Now to actually call this function, we just do create input action mapping, and inside the action names, we are going to call them what our action input actions mappings we called in the project settings. So increase time control, and then we have to split this. So right click this split thing, and then we have to give it a default. So I'm going to default this to numpad plus, and then drag this out, and this will be called decrease, and this will be numpad minus, like that. So that is how you create them. But the problem is now we've taken these two things and we're not actually doing anything with them. So creating the action, the mappings, but yeah, we're not actually doing anything with them. So we have to actually now make a function called edit input action mapping. So that's create this edit input action mapping, and again we have to take in action name of type name, and new key, of type key. There we go. Very good. So now we just need to basically get all this stuff again. So just copy that over, get that, and then we need to do a for each loop. And this for each loop will go through this array, and it will remove. No, I'll just do it here. Remove action mapping. I'm definitely doing something wrong here. Yes, I remember why. Because it's another of those things where you have to do that. You have to drag out this one. Remove action mapping, because it's context sensitive again. So if I drag it out of here and type remove, you wouldn't see it, right? But if I turned off context sensor and then remove action mapping, it's there. So it's one of those things where you can get pretty lost until you turn off context sensitivity or anything like that. So there we go. Let's just bring this up here and then tidy this off a little bit. There we go. Now, what we've done here is we've gotten all of the action mappings from this action name. So here it will be if we've set the key to numpad plus whatever, then it will basically remove numpad plus from this. And now what we're going to do is take this key and add it back in. So it's just a case of going this, and then we make input, turn on context sensitivity again, action like this, and then we give it action name as well. And then let's just take this and go add action mapping. No, because this again. Add action mapping. And then we do this when this has completed as well. Oh no, it's not getting aligned. I'll just do that. There we go. And then we're going to save key mappings, and again it'll probably complain at me, so I'll do save key mappings. There we go. And from this I will bring that, and there we go. That is everything we need to do. Oh yes, that's right, I forgot to drag this in. There we go. And that's basically your edit function. So what we have to do is go back to event graph, and we actually need at the end of add to viewport, what we'll do is we'll just bring this out a little bit and we'll add sequence node. Okay, sorry, sequence mode. There we go. And the first thing we'll do is we need to actually remember these here, these events. Well, what we need to do actually, because I would do 2 here, is bind also actually because it's not going to let me, just move this over here, do not them, and then we can bind event on increment changed. And let's add a custom event on IKS changed. And let's do it again for bind on decrement changed. Add custom event on decrement IKS changed. I'll just rename that for. Doesn't really matter. And now what we do is we just call edit input action. So we drag this out, take that, take the new key, and we shove it in there. We do the same with this one. Do that, shove it in there, and there we go. And now when you change the key inside here to your new key, it then actually edits your input action mapping to be that key. So it basically edits the configs so that your key is now that. Now finally we can actually call the actual, like if the button for input action is pressed. So now we go input action, and if I go increase time control, yeah, action events, increase time control. So this is like if you press F, for example, like key F. I believe there is. Yeah, here we go. There's like if you press the V key, then one of those things happens. So now I want to do one for decrease time control. So before we get into this, I just need to explain what we're doing next. So we want to execute our instruction when the key is pressed. So now it's time for a bit of mathsy, nodesy stuff, and this is horrible in Blueprint. It's a bit of a mess. But basically what we need to think about is, first we need to limit the time dilation to a maximum. So anything higher than like 8 really lags out of the game. We also need to limit the dilation to a minimum, so any lower than 0 is it doesn't really do anything, but you know, it's just poor design choice. We also need to update the slider value, the text box under the slider and the text box on the HUD as we press the buttons. Otherwise there'll be number inconsistencies. So if the slider said it was 1 and then you incremented it by pressing numpad plus, it goes to 2, but then the slider on the actual the value on the actual slider will still say 1, so you know, it would be an inconsistency. So taking in these considerations, we need to make some float variables called like max dilation. So just do this, max dilation and min dilation. Now we could actually just have these two set as just random like we could in the maths when we do later. We could just have them set as like some random number. But something is really important is remove magic numbers from your code. So just having a random number there that might not make any sense to somebody, what's the point of having there? And also it allows us, or you can add inputs to allow the user to change these more easily later. So min dilation 0, max dilation I'm going to set to 8. And this is still 1, right? Time dilation, no, that needs to be 1. Default of 1. So, although this actually isn't doing anything currently, so that's fine. So what we need to do now is, so let's just do the increment part first. So what we need to do is, we need to get the value of the time dilation and then increment it with when we press the button. So you can just do a plus plus increment float, and then we can get time dilation. Get that, and we just increment it. And then we need to check if the newly incremented value is larger than or equal to the max dilation. So if say the dilation was 7.5 and we press the plus button and it increments by 1, and then it goes to 8.5, that's higher than the max dilation of 8. So we can't let it get set to 8.5, we just set it to max dilation. If it's 3.5, we add 1. If it's 4.5, it's still under 8, so we keep it at 4.5, that's fine. So, to do that, what we do is do it greater than or equal to, like this. We want to get min dilation, and then we want to, if not equal to branch, this is all very messy, so let's just, there we go. And then we set set time dilation to whatever value there. So it would be to this value that's been added there. Just clean up a bit. And then we also set this one here. Again, if it's false, so then we set it to sorry, no, that's the wrong one. I just realized. This to me needs to be max dilation. You probably realize that already, I'm silly. There we go. Right. So now we have this. And then what we can do is set to global time dilation. Set to global time dilation. And set to global time dilation. We can clean this up afterwards. So now let's do the same but for decrement. So then we have to, obviously when you decrement we don't want it to be smaller than 0, so it'll be exactly the same except we're checking that, so we're going to decrement float and we decrement that, we branch over here, and then this is going to be smaller than or equal to, this is going to be a not. I'll just align these because I'm, there we go. And then we go, now we go min dilation here. And then if it's true, we just do this basically. There we go. So you see here, it's a bit horrible because there's a lot of repetitiveness here. It's a bit of a mess. So really what we want to do is actually make a function for this. I wonder if collapse to function. Yeah, it never works. That straight up just never works. Set time dilation. And we don't want to have any inputs or anything. So really what we want to do, we want an input, new dilation. Float. And then let's just close all of these things. And we'll just do that. There we go. So now we can delete all of this stuff, and then we'll just call this every time. So this with that, this with that, and then we'll just copy and paste it. This with that, and this with that. And I know it's a mess now. Let's just, I'm such a tidy up person. I can't not look at it. It's so close. Anyway, so now let's actually do that. There we go. Sorry I had to watch that. Right, finally. Now we want to actually update the values of the slider, like the slider, the text under the slider, and the HUD thingy. So what we're going to do is get time dilation. We're gonna just convert to text. There we go. And then what we're going to do is first we're going to do this. Slider. Get time slider. Set value. Now, oh, whoopsie. Just drag all of these in here. Drag that into there. And then we take this. And we do this loveliness. And that should pretty much be it. Unless I've made a mistake here. I am almost certain that this is fine. And again, we just leave this here because this is obviously just the normal slider. As far as I'm aware, that's everything. So now we're gonna pack and test.
Here we go again.
Right, temptation is there. Very good. Right, we have this. Yep. Now I'm going to hit the plus key, and there we go. That works. Okay. And minus. Yep, that works. Now we're gonna check. Does it go higher than 8? No, it doesn't. Good. And this is updating this. Yep. And now we're gonna go to 0, and it doesn't go any lower. Good. Right. Now I'm gonna change this to L and this to K. So now if I hit K, nothing happens. If I hit L, nothing happens. Interesting. And plus and minus still works, so it's not actually editing. So these aren't working. So I'm gonna have to look at that. Why isn't it not working? Because I forgot to hook up the execution nodes. And there we go. That's exactly what I was on about. Sod's law, it never works first time.
That damn galactic ale.
Right.
It's killing my head.
Let's test L and K. Crap, it still aren't working. That's annoying. Did I actually run the packer? Yeah, I did, because that was the time. So there's still something going wrong. Oh, I think I know what it is. Because when I was setting my action name, I just didn't set them, did I? So decrease time control. I knew I forgot something again. Classic. Bloody classic. Right.
Damn, my neck hurts.
Please work. Yes. And yep, and I'm pressing numpad plus and minus, and they're not doing anything, and these are. So if I do that and this again, yep, and the mod works. Whee!